Good night. I gotta go to bed.
L4, we have 4 speakers. Mr. Chair, Kevin Carlin, you're up, and Mr. Clapper, you're on deck.
Members of the board, staff, my name is Kevin Carlin. I'm here to urge you not to approve the appointment of Ms. Yamani to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. The first reason you should not do that is it is contrary to your board bylaws. Your board bylaws require your appointments to maintain an odd number of persons on the board. And this appointment would break that, and basically essentially make an even number of persons. And so I would submit to you that according to your bylaws, you need to appoint 2 people at the same time. When you do that, I would like to echo what Mr. McCann said earlier, that needs to be done in a public forum. It needs to be done with all of the applicants disclosed to the public, considered by the board, and that the board is the one that needs to hold the hearing, consider the candidates, and exercise their legislative discretion as far as who is going to be appointed. It's my understanding that the board's legislative discretion has been improperly delegated to subordinates. Mr. Marinovich addresses this in his letter, which was made part of tonight's record, and so I would refer you to paragraphs 7 and 8. I want to bring to the board's attention the failure to consider all of the candidates who have submitted their resumes, and I would also like to bring to the board's attention Mr. Marinovich's question and request for a statement of who has applied, who was interviewed, what criteria were applied, and who made the decisions. None of that is in the public record right now, so none of that is transparent. And so again, at the very least, Mr. McCann, I would expect you to vote no on this issue, given your prior statement and your prior experience at Chula Vista, which I would concur is the proper way to go about this. Thank you.
Mr. Clapper, you're up, and Mr. Marinovich, you're on deck.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Dr. Brand. I'm here tonight in regards to the Bond Oversight Committee. I'm kind of tired, so I'm going to read this right instead of speak it up. Okay. My name is Brian Clapper. Okay. I'm a lifelong resident of National City and active community member who has served my community for 40 years as a volunteer, city organizer, parent, volunteer, and a service club leader. In November 2012, I was also elected by the residents of National City to serve on the National School District Governing Board, which I'm very proud to do. Due to my active community involvement, I was fortunate to have been endorsed by the National City Chamber Board of Directors for the Bond Oversight Committee, and I presented myself to the committee on April the 1st. The committee then forwarded my name to Dr. Brand as a viable candidate. On April the 3rd, I had an interview with the superintendent, which I also thought went very well. I recently learned that, however, my name is not being forwarded to the governing board for your consideration. However, I am told that there are 2 vacancies on the committee and would like to inquire why the second vacancy is not being filled at this time. I believe the board and superintendent received an email from our chamber executive director regarding my experience and my commitment to our students and their schools in the South Bay. I trust the board received this correspondence and wants to make every effort to reach out to interested and qualified citizens to serve on this important committee. Again, I feel, as do many others, that I would bring valuable insight as a community member, and would respectfully ask why the second vacancy is not being filled at this time. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity I'd like to thank you for this brief opportunity to share my thoughts and welcome your response. And to further conclude, since I have a little bit more time, I don't really understand, Dr. Brand, if you know what a volunteer is. I don't know if you've ever had to or had the opportunity to volunteer. But when a person who graduated from Sweetwater High School comes and presents himself, I've been president of the District Advisory Committee, School Site Council president, I have served on many, many committees. My daughter is a senior in Hilltop High School. And I volunteer, and I was really excited about coming down here. I took the time out of my day twice, not once, but twice, to come down here and be an honest volunteer, and was very excited. And then when I learned that Dr. Brand had decided to not recommend me, it was pretty upsetting. And it's no wonder that when I come to these board meetings, I see the dissent and the problems here. I think you're bringing it all on yourself, Dr. Brand. Thank you.
Mr. Marinovich, you're up. Dr. John Grubb, you're on deck.
Well, my response will be somewhat muted because what I'm really thinking, you probably wouldn't want to hear all the words that would involve some words you don't want to hear in public. But in all seriousness, you have a member of the public who's a school board member who's come down here to multiple meetings with experience and wanting to be a bond oversight committee member, and you say, forget it. What does that say about the process? And I don't quite understand it. And the reason I don't understand it, so I'm going to find out. I wrote an email to Ms. Wesso, who serves at the pleasure of Dr. Brand, and I asked 5 specific questions I want to see over the next year, over the period from April of last year to now. And I'm not going to let up on it because it's part of the charge of the committee to do bond oversight correctly and to have a fair process to allow citizen involvement. What I want to see is all applications received in the last year, every single one that was received by the district, a description of the district screening process, records of all groups that were contacted to recruit the new members, and any related correspondence, meeting notes, and emails that relate to the selection of committee members by any district employee. Number 4, what specific individuals reviewed and screened the applications internally. And 5, and this is who prepared and directed the non-disclosure form that was presented to me to sign. Here, Nick, sign this or else, when I was on the bond committee, that I wasn't going to say anything at all about the interview process. And I said, wait a minute, this is a bond oversight committee that's supposed to represent the public, and I can't say anything. I can't even tell Jacqueline King or Kathleen Shears or anybody about anything. And I just, you know, your problem, when I first came up here, and my first chair report representing again the whole committee, was trust, transparency, and thoroughness. And you know, a lot of your problems in these meetings are dysfunctional because there's one major problem. Is that the public doesn't feel that they trust what's happening. You know, these meetings would go along a lot better, but everybody pulls every little thing because they just feel they can't trust what they're getting. And then you do things like this where you have a person, and it's just very frustrating. I don't want to be, and the committee doesn't want to be confrontational. I used to have a saying, we have met the enemy, and it is us. And you are your own worst enemy. Thank you.
Dr. John Grubb.
He had to leave. Can I speak? No?
Okay. Of course
No more
not.
speakers.
No, I pulled the item.
Who said no?
Whatever.
Ms. Lopez.
Yes.
Dr. Brand acting as the president.
The reason why I pulled the item is because I was very disappointed. Yeah, I know that Dr. Brand sent us a little notation that stated at last Friday's update to go back and look at the item in which he specified regarding the process that this was going to be taken as far as selecting a new bond oversight committee. And thank you to John McCann, because exactly what he stated today, he stated that back in 2012. And I just want to quote something that Dr. Brand said. One of the charges that the HR division has to answer is, are we in fact getting multiple candidates for various positions? So this item that is being brought to you tonight reflects partially our effort to fill the vacancies through an identifiable, predetermined, non-interference by the superintendent or this board to allow this process to play out. Okay? My understanding is, and if not, I'm not correct, Dr. Brand, you need to go ahead and tell me that I'm not correct. My understanding is that there were 4 individuals that took their time, the process was done, they went ahead and they selected 2 individuals to fill this board seats. Those 2 individuals went to Dr. Brand. And what did he do? He interfered in the process. This is not a paid employee. This is a volunteer. Now, if there are reasons why he did not want Mr. Clapper to apply, that should have been specified in the application. And that was not specified in the application. So I want to know right now, publicly, why Dr. Brand decided not to go ahead and move his name forward to be appointed by us, because we're not appointing the person that he even selected. That person has already been selected by Dr. Brand. And what I'm concerned is that we're not doing a service to this community. And I'm getting excited, Jim, because this is happening too many times. And we're not putting a stop to it. So I want to know from Dr. Brand, why did that person, Mr. Clapper, was not selected? That's number 1. Mr. Clapper just said that there was an email or a letter that was sent to all of us. I didn't get such a letter. Whatever you're talking about, Mr. Clapper, I didn't get a letter. I don't know if anybody else did. I'm speaking for myself. So if the letter went to Dr. Brand and Dr. Brand did not send it to us, shame on you, Dr. Brand. Who was the letter? Well, never mind. So I want an explanation from Dr. Brand. And don't tell me that he can't say this because it's a personnel matter. This man doesn't work for us. This man is not an employee. Okay? And then it says right here on the board agenda, it says, at the time of making such appointment, information concerning the qualifications of the Oversight Committee candidates to be considered by the board, subject to redaction of personal information such as addresses, phone numbers, and emails, shall be available to the members of the public. Where are those applications, Dr. Brand? Are they available to all of you right now? That is our agenda item, Jim, and to the rest of the board members. And now, we are in violation. We cannot have an even number. And we cannot vote on this item. I want an explanation from Dr. Brand publicly. Why was Mr. Clapper not selected when there were 2 people that were forwarded by the committee? And I believe the committee was somebody from personnel, and I don't know I know one member was Mr. Minovich. I don't know who the other 2 members were. This is not a paid position at all. This is a volunteer position. Why are we turning away our volunteers? I want an explanation, Jim, from Dr. Brand. He's our employee.
There we go. All right.
So, hit it. I'm waiting. We have 7 minutes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to discuss qualifications in an open session.
This is not a personnel item, Mr. Brand.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a personnel item.
Yeah.
He's speaking now. This is.
He said you got his permission. You got his
Go
permission.
ahead.
You couldn't be bought, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead. And here, he stated himself, that's why I pulled out the transcription of the item.
Okay.
He said that it will be non-interference by the superintendent or this board, Jim.
My recommendation then is that tonight, because it's not a time urgent issue, that we defer this until the next meeting.
Okay.
Of course.
The other thing that I wanted to share,
We
Jim.
have to, because it's not on the agenda.
It is on the agenda.
No, the other vacancy. So what I'm saying is.
But what I'm saying, why is it that we're not abiding by what the committee said, Jim? The committee went ahead and they recommended 2 people. We have 2
So
seats.
that's why I'm recommending, again, we move to the next meeting, and we'll have.
So what you're saying to me is that Mr. Clapper is not going to be able to apply? Because he will not, because Dr. Grant didn't pick him.
Right.
So that means that the next time Mr. Clapper is not going, he's not going to be eligible for the position.
I didn't say that either.
So why can't we make that appointment since they went ahead and they recommended the 2 people? Why can we not make the appointment, Jim?
It's the pleasure of the board.
Okay, I move to make the appointment. I move to make the appointment. I move to make the appointment of Mr. Clapper since he was the person that was forwarded by the committee. Let's do things right for once, guys. Let's do it right.
Mr.
That's
President, if
what
I
I tried
may,
to say earlier. Go ahead.
I wish you would actually chime in a little earlier. I hear what you're saying, Ms. Lopez, and I know you're getting a little hot. But
Why shouldn't I be getting hot?
Please,
Excuse me, if I may, Mr. President. Thank you. I think, and you know, I'm sitting through this meeting again, and people are making the comments of dysfunctionality. But quite frankly, if you look at the voting records, it's a quite functional board. You all have criticisms, that's understandable. That's absolutely understandable. However, if we're going to continue to disrespect each other on this board, without having the ability to share comments in dissent without disrespecting each other, then we can move forward. But there is a reason there is a superintendent, and some of us may not agree with him, and some of us may. That there is a reason there is a superintendent. Now, I would be willing just to put this on hold because we clearly, as a board, need to look at how we want to do committee appointment.
And we stated
And
that.
excuse me,
That was stated.
excuse
Ms.
me.
Lopez, she has the floor.
What ended up happening here is every person who sits in that bond oversight committee now was not under the structure that Mr. McCann has recommended, which I think sounds like a very good structure. So if we want to have consistency, if we want to be able to do it, then let's go back and put it together as agreed upon by the board. Now you're just saying, let this board pick from the applicants, when last year or 2 years ago, the public was very upset that board members
That's not what I'm saying.
had the ability
That's not
to
what I'm saying.
pick individuals.
That's not what I'm
And
saying.
that, and
This
I'm
is
getting
not a
the
conversation.
confirmation.
It's a
And we
discussion.
did decide amongst ourselves not to be a part of that process. And we leave it up to the leadership of the district. Then come here. Yes. And there's confirmation from Ms. Quinones, that's what I recall as well. So I want to say, and I know we're tired, but I am tired of the disrespect that we are showing at this dais to the people who lead this organization, to the community who's sitting here for hours on end. Agree with me or not, that's fine. Do not, and let's have the citizenship that we need in order to conduct business in this district. Thank you, Mr. President.
The floor recognizes Mrs. Lopez.
Thank you. Arlie, I recognize that we agreed to follow a process, Arlie, which Dr. Brandt stated very clearly on April the 16th, and that process was followed. It was followed, and it says here, without the interference of the board, us, or the superintendent. These are his words. They were transcribed. You all got a copy of it. These are his words, Arlie. You got a copy of it. So he has interfered with the process. That's number one. He has interfered. I am not contradicting you at all. I am saying that we said that there was going to be a process followed. HR was going to conduct the process, but without the interference of the superintendent. And he himself said that he would not interfere. In this case, he interfered. And lastly, because I am going to be quiet, I understand, and I don't know why Dr. Brand keeps doing that, but talking about respect, Arlie, and talking about, you give respect when you give it to somebody.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's how you earn respect. So I have a question for Dr. Brand. I got an email in which it states that Dr. Brand is talking to some of the the candidates about Bert Grossman. Why? He actually talked to one of the candidates about Bert Grossman being a nice person, and I don't doubt it that he is.
Oh, no.
I don't doubt it that he is, Arlie. But you know what? Talk about respect. I need to be respected too as a board colleague on this board. And I'm tired of it, Arlie. Because we allow that same superintendent to disrespect us. And if you're not feeling it, Arlie, maybe you're that special one. But I am not. I'm feeling it. And he doesn't have any reason to talk to any board, any other candidate about Bert Grossman. Tell me, why? So now, we're going to allow him to disregard a volunteer?
It's a sham. What a sham.
Okay,
I'm really ashamed.
with that, this meeting is adjourned.
The County Board of Ed just took over San Ysidro School District. Come on.
So we didn't take
Wasn't
action.
there a motion?
He can do it.
You own that. You own the problem. You voted him in, you own the problem.
The minutes from the last
Their responses are
San Ysidro the San Ysidro School District was just taken over by the county.
I don't tweet, so.